bearing fruit in every good work and increasing in the knowledge of God. May you be strengthened with all power according to his glorious might, for all endurance and patience, with joy and giving thanks to the Father, who has qualified you to share in the inheritance of the saints in light. He has delivered us from the domain of darkness and transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins. Father, be with this court as we make the decisions that affect this county. Give us strength, wisdom, and courage. And it's in your Son, Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Magistrate Jamey. If everybody will join me to the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
one nation,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Thank you. All right. We'll look at the a motion to approve the minutes from our prior meeting.
So moved.
Did you hear history being made? Did y'all hear history being made? We have a motion to approve the minutes by Magistrate Ellis. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? There being none, let's do a roll call vote, and we'll go with Magistrate Gay.
Aye.
Magistrate Ellis.
Aye.
Magistrate Simmons.
Aye.
Magistrate Short. Magistrate Kaywood.
Yes.
Magistrate Cullen.
Yes.
We have a unanimous approval for the minutes. Thank you, gentlemen, for that. Next, we'll go and have the approval of some bills, and we have Miss Mariah in the room with us. Mariah, you're on.
So the total of bills to be paid is $2,329,583.84. And the total of standing orders is $336,063.25.
I move we approve the bills as presented.
There's a motion by Magistrate Gay to approve the bills as presented. Is there a second? Seconded by Magistrate Kaywood. Discussion, comments, questions. All those in favor by roll call, Magistrate Gay.
Aye.
Magistrate Ellis.
Aye.
Magistrate Simmons.
Aye.
Magistrate Kaywood.
Aye.
Magistrate Cullen.
Aye.
Motion passes. For record, Magistrate Short is not on in attendance at this court meeting. He called me yesterday pretty ill. I don't know the nature of his illness exactly, but he is not with us today, but we do have quorum.
He called this morning that he's still sick with a lung infection.
With a lung infection. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Paying of the bills. We need to make some budget transfers.
All righty, we have budget transfers in the general fund. We had treasurer salary, some animal control uniforms, animal control training. One thing I want to mention is me and Angie have been talking, and she didn't have very much in her repairs and maintenance for recycling equipment, so to cover costs in that area, she's pulling from the $10,000 that you all had put out for staging trailers. She no longer needs that. I'm just making the court aware of that. But that's where she's going to be pulling money from to cover costs in repairs and maintenance on recycling equipment. In the jail, we had transfer from reserve to COVID supply material. And then I'm just making the court aware again. I talked to Mike and Rita for EMS medical supplies. They're getting over budget and they haven't spent very much in their medical drugs. So we're going to pull from there to cover the medical supplies. So that's all the budget transfers.
Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Magistrate Haywood, seconded by Magistrate Cullen to approve the budget transfers. Any comments, discussions, or questions? Magistrate Gay, you vote.
Aye.
Magistrate Ellis.
Aye.
Magistrate Sammons.
Aye.
Magistrate Haywood.
Yes.
Magistrate Cullen.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Passes unanimously. All right. Cash transfers.
We only have one cash transfer, and that's from the general reserve to the joint jail fund for salary and operations for $225,000.
Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Motion to approve the cash transfer of $225,000 general fund to jail fund. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And the motion made by Magistrate Cullen, seconded by Magistrate Haywood. Is that correct?
Sir, right.
All right. Any comments, discussions, questions? Magistrate Gay.
Aye.
Magistrate Ellis.
Aye.
Magistrate Sammons.
Aye.
Magistrate Haywood.
Yes.
Magistrate Cullen.
Yes.
Thank you. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Next one on our consent calendar, we, in previous court meetings have approved and have invited Mr. Sam Collier, to, meet the court. He was a recent appointee confirmed to the Planning and Zoning, Committee. And, Sam, I'd like for you to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, and, let the court ask you any questions.
Certainly. Thank you, Judge. I appreciate that opportunity. Hey, for those folks that don't know me, I moved into this central area, my family, myself, about 1985. Been living here out on Pope Road, which is the eastern part of the county, over out off of Route 52, for those that are not familiar with that. And I reached out and just in December timeframe, I recently retired for the final time, as I refer to that. We all know how when you work in industry, it goes back and forth, that type of activity. I've been working the last 3+ years at Hyster-Yale in Berea as an engineering manager, and that engineering manager position is part of my history of operation all the way back for the last 35 years. I've been involved with directing and supervising a set of professionals associated with planning and structures, mechanical structures, heat transfer equipment, that type of arrangement. For many years, I worked with the old Signet Systems, Modine Manufacturing, which was in Harrodsburg, Kentucky. Jamey and myself, we've married. We have 3 kids. We've had them grow right up here in the Boyle County community with the Boyle County schools. And one of my one of my 3 daughters is now a teacher at the Danville Independent School. She has middle school math teacher arrangement on here. The other 2 daughters live up in the Lexington area, and we'd like to continue to retire in this area on here. I think when the judge and I talked about some of the background interests in here, I'd love to take time and share my abilities to help the county grow, help the city grow, to continue to live in this area. I think it's a great place to live. I think it's what we need to promote on here. He suggested that the Planning and Zoning Group would be a good opportunity, and I fully agree with you, Judge. I think it is a compliment, and I had my rare opportunity here to start my first P&Z meeting last week during the last meeting, and folks, you know how lively that meeting was if you've been watching the paper arrangement on there. It's been pretty good. So it's a nice way to put that arrangement on there. So Judge, and I know Julie, by the way, Julie, I hope Robert's feeling much better. I appreciate that. He is, and the COVID did not treat him well. So we'll deal with his medical things on a regular basis, and I appreciate that. So, but I know Julie from a very long time. Our kids grew up that type of activity on here. I'm one of those people that, for you folks, that we love to live here. We chose to live here. We did not choose to live in Fayette County. But in reality is, I never worked in this county. So it becomes a different twist and arrangement on here. But I think it's part of the future of what we have and the future of where the business and the future of the growth and the continuation of what we have. We got a lot to offer in this area for sure on there. So curious on here, program and planning arrangement here. Much of my business and planning activities, which is what I've done, I've had 15 to 18 professionals working for me at one time. But generally, if I've had to work remotely for my supervisor, who generally either was in Wisconsin or in Oregon or globally type arrangement on there. So I'm used to WebExes, used to involvement, used to planning, and did the regular budget and planning arrangement. I think that's the right direction we got to go in a business on here. So, folks, I'll stop at this point. I'd love to interact with each one of you. But in the meantime, hopefully you can see my face. If you see me out walking around and involved with things, look for me. Appreciate that. Thank you, Judge. Any comments?
Good intro. Yeah. Open up to the court to comments, questions.
No, just welcome and thank you, and appreciate your willingness to serve in a thankless role on planning and zoning. Important but thankless role.
You are right. It is one of those roles that you never win, do you? Very much so.
Welcome, Tom Ellis here. We need to move you out into the western part of the county where we got beautiful hills and deer and turkey and everything you want to have if you're a hunter.
You know, you're absolutely right. It's a gorgeous area to go out. It's gorgeous out there. You're right.
All right.
Sam, it's Bill Salmon.
Okay.
Sam, it's Bill Salmon. I just wanted to say welcome. We're looking forward to meeting you.
Wow. We get past the little. Yep, we get past this COVID thing, kind of like what we're doing, and get back to a better life. I think we'll be able to interact easier.
That's right. That'd be great. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Sam, if I may, I'm John K. Wood. I'm John. Just call me John. If I may call you Sam. A comment or two that I don't usually ask somebody coming on the board. Board like P&Z, which is very important to this community. But I really do appreciate you bringing your skills and your background to the board. I think you offer a lot that will be shared and well used of information. I too watched that 127 meeting, and I thought about you, and I thought, if this is your first meeting, this is not the best way maybe to come to your first meeting. There was a couple of things that, though, I'm going to share with you that I felt in that meeting that I think needs to be brought out. And that this jumped out maybe at you too. You all are volunteers. And we serve on behalf of the citizens. There was a moment in that meeting where I feel like there was a breakdown in respectful communication among folks who were there. And you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. I would ask that we continue to be respectful of our citizens who speak, that we hear them. We may not agree with them, but it is emotion. You are in a very emotional room with planning and zoning. There's a lot of emotions that you're hearing from citizens. But I always want the committee to be respectful to our citizens, for we serve them. And that's why we're there. Then last night, sometimes I wonder if I got anything better to do. Last night, I tuned into the Planning and Zoning Committee and City that was at 4 o'clock or 4:30. And there's one thing that jumped out at me that I want to share with you, and I think your background won't let this happen again. But the city manager pointed out that on the project on Lancaster Road, that water and sewer was not really discussed at the 127th meeting, the one that you were at. I think the water and sewer is one of the early things on any project that needs to be discussed. And I would just share that with you to tell you of how I feel about it, because it surprised me that was not discussed at the first meeting your first meeting. And I would just like to emphasize that I think it's something that is discussed very early in any planning project in James and zoning, is water and sewer. It's very critical. So I thank you, sir. I appreciate you're willing to step forward in doing this. And what more can I say?
Yeah, thank you, John. I think, John, your observation's really good to me as a brand new person coming in. Part of it is to understand the order of importance and concern. And you're absolutely right. Those public presentations, those public involvement, your opinion is valued as a perspective in the picture. That's the whole point there. You're absolutely correct. And I have a feeling that I may discover some of the things you just said, John, about the right priority, the right sequence, which is part of it. And certainly water and sewer is one of those big elements to know in the early part of that thing. So if I can bring that in during the conversations and introduce that earlier in the conversations, it may help resolve some of the issues later in life or help support that and learn from that. There's always a lot of ways to do these meetings, but John, don't you ever stop providing input or comments. I appreciate that, because that's how we learn to get a little better. And then that's what we're trying to do, is get better, logical, and understand we're all together, folks. We're making a balance. We're trying to level it out and come with the right direction. So thank you very much. Hey, if anybody else during the sequence wants to reach out to me separately out of the meeting, just give me a shout, okay?
Sam, this is Jason Cullen. We're neighbors. I'm right there on the other side of Clark's Run, behind you.
Yep.
So we pretty much back up to each other. But thank you for taking on this. I agree with John that we do need to make sure that we're being respectful, and I also say that maybe we do a little better educating our public as well, that they need to be respectful of the committee as well, as you guys are volunteers. There's no pay for this. This is something that you're trying to do to serve your community. So we need to make sure those in attendance understand that as well, that this is not an opportunity to start bashing and yelling at people. But we need to make sure that especially our the staff and those on the board have a little thicker skin as well. So thank you for taking on this role. Appreciate it very much. Look forward to what you have to offer to the county.
Sam, Tom Ellis again, out in the western part of the county. It's not my district, but I hope you can stay on for the next conversations, because we are going to be talking about those infrastructure issues that John Campbell mentioned earlier. Critical that we have water, sewer, protection of firefighters, and water is essential. We lost a probably $2 million house out in my district a couple of years ago, and water was not available. The best they had was ponds in behind the house. So that is critical, and we're going to have a discussion here in a few minutes about that sort of thing in the development in another magistrate district.
Yeah, I was planning on staying on, and that is one of mine. We need to have fundamental type of resources available, and water is critical to be able to expand the growth arrangement on there. So I need to catch up to where we are, and joining this meeting is a very good way to do that.
Thank you.
All right, Sam, again, thank you so much. I thank you have, this has been a great intro for the court and you to get together, and you're welcome. And I invite any magistrate at any time to reach out to you, and we will provide, if it's okay with you, your contact info for the magisterial members of this court to reach out and communicate with you. Is that okay, Sam?
Yes, by all means, Judge. Go ahead and please provide that to them and reach out to me whenever whenever you feel you need to. Very good.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. And we'll move on and Chris Herron. Let's start with on the agenda with talking about the out of county mileage reimbursement for committee members.
Yes. I reached out to a couple of county attorneys to see what they thought about this, and they all believe that it would be okay for us to reimburse for mileage. I talked to the Casey County attorney, and he said that he thinks the fiscal court could pay mileage and expenses incurred by members of boards or committees. He thinks that they just need to be presented like any other kind of bill, and we can't start paying them salary or anything like that, but definitely expenses for boards that we've created and so forth, that we appoint and so forth, that we could pay mileage or other expenses if we choose to do so. So it's okay.
Okay. It was a recommendation on that we use the state mileage or the IRS mileage rate that the government uses, both federal and or state. Is that what we standardize on that?
I would think that would be what you would use. I mean, I'm not sure what it is now. I mean, when I used to work for State Farm a long time ago, it was like 32 cents a mile or something. So I think it's higher than that.
Now, it's what?
I think it's 55.
It might even be more, but anyway. Well, after hearing that, would the court be interested in presenting a motion that we comply with the standard government mileage rate to pay committee and board members that attend meetings out of county mileage only?
Yes. I think it's only fair.
Okay, so would that be a motion that you're willing to put forth, Master Tully?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is there a second to the motion
I'll
of
second
paying
that.
the state government reimbursement rate for mileage?
I'll second that.
It's seconded by Magistrate Gay.
For out of county business.
For out of county visits, and this is for mileage only at this point. Okay? So we have a motion made by Magistrate Cullen and seconded by Magistrate Gay. Is there any comments, discussions, or questions?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I believe very much in transparency, so I will abstain from this vote because my wife is a volunteer and is part of the Bluegrass Ad Board as a volunteer representing Boyle County. And so she may very well decide to turn in mileage for their meetings in Lexington and also the committee meetings that they have through the year. So I will abstain for that reason. I think it's in the best interest.
Appreciate that abstention. Everybody heard the reason for that. We still have a quorum of vote with that abstention and Magistrate Court being out today. So is there any other comments, questions, or discussions on the motion to pay board committee members out of county travel reimbursement for mileage at the government approved rate? There being none, let's go, Magistrate Gay.
Aye.
Magistrate Ellis.
Aye.
Magistrate Samuels.
Aye.
Magistrate Cullen.
Aye.
It passes unanimously, with one abstention and one absence. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for that. Next, Mr. Attorney.
Yes.
Ordinance discussion, we had a meeting, a general, just a meeting to discuss county road widths. Is there any more discussion that needs to be had about that?
I mean, I think that there's a lengthy discussion, and I mean, I think that you guys just kind of need to tell me what you need to figure it out what you want to do. If you want to, set limits on, roads that are less than so many feet wide and so forth, then we can whatever you choose. Then we can go to the. I think the fiscal court would need to make a motion and pass something where you direct the planning commission to change the ordinance, like for building permits or whatever, to reflect, what you are asking for, and then we would go from there.
Judge Tom Ellis here. I don't know whether Steve Hunter is on with us or not, but he reported in an earlier session that we probably have 1/3 of our roads with a substandard width. If I recall correctly, that's under 16 feet. And I know all throughout my district, if two F-150s like mine pass on those roads, they're going to wipe their mirrors off. So this is a long-term issue that I wish had been taken care of 20 or 30 years ago. But we obviously have a development right now, not in my district, that doesn't adhere to, I believe, even a 12-foot road.
I would agree. What I would like to do is let the public know that we're discussing this issue on development in the county. I would like for the group that met last week to continue with another meeting to include just the same people that met and to discuss this. I have sent out an email this week recently to the KCJEA, the Judges Association, which I am questioning or asking for input from my counterparts, 120 county judges, how and what they did to address this issue of concern on development in their counties, to maybe get some more input that it's out there. So rather than coming to any kind of conclusion today, I don't think we're there yet. Julie, go ahead.
Just to kind of bring everybody up to speed, we had a meeting last week, a Zoom meeting, and at that meeting we decided that I would do some research. I found one ordinance from Washington County that looks pretty close to what I think the committee wants us to do. So once we get feedback from your email, we'll call that, go through it, put it together. We did have a request from somebody in the county who asked for us to put a moratorium in place until we figure this out for any building permits. But I feel like we don't really need to do that, because I think we can get this done pretty quickly. Get at least the language in front of you to look over.
I'm going to kind of piggyback off of Tom here a second. We as a county need to figure out whether we're going to kick this problem down the road, or if we're actually going to do something about it. If we're going to protect our residents and taxpayers, or if we're just going to try to come up with some sort of language. But I really think that we need to take a hard look at bringing our road up to speed, up to safety standards. It's going to cost some money, but think of all the money we spent. This is one of those items that really needs to be looked at. You can't have 8-foot roads, 11-foot roads, and start putting developments out there, and then put the burden on the developers. So what we really need is our county engineer, Julie, and maybe this group and Steve Hunter to look at the roads that are really in need of widening, and we need to start going down that road. Because if we want to be able to open up some developing out in the county, we need to make sure that it's safe for everyone there, especially the people that have already been there. We can't expect them to now have to worry about their kids going out and playing or whatever on what used to be a safe road, but now you've got double, triple the traffic coming in and out. So I would say the first thing we need to do is really look at how many roads we can start widening and go from there.
Judge, if I may.
Let me add to that from the meeting that we had, Judge.
Wait on
It is
Tom.
amazing.
Tom, wait a minute. John,
Yes, sir.
John, would like to speak. Wait just a minute, please.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tom. Sam, it's great having you here because this kind of plays into your role. I think that you, on planning and zoning, it was referred to in that meeting, I believe Mr. Hunter referred to our land use map as a disaster. Somehow, I think that this plays into this part of where the money is used and what roads that are used fit in coordination with the land use plan going forward. It may give us some direction as to how we make those types of decisions.
Be a critical element of it if we're going to work.
It's got, the land use plan may give it's the direction I think that we use to do what we are talking about.
Yeah. All right, Tom, now you can speak, please.
Thank you, sir. When we had that discussion last week, one of the critical issues that I did raise was water. And when you think about the fact that, yes, our fire trucks can go on an 11-foot road, but in an emergency like that, there's going to be a flow of traffic back and forth. An example again of where we have to use ponds for the water, and we have trucks as well as the fire truck coming and going on an 11-foot road. It's even a 16-foot road. It's absolutely impossible. So when we do this ordinance, I respectfully recommend that we include the appropriate water flow on any of these while we're also addressing the road widths.
I'm going to follow up with one more item, and it's an ask of our finance committee. We're getting ready to get into budget, and so when we're looking at things that we can spend money on, I would ask that you guys take, and hopefully Duane will have something for us, but take into consideration the improvements that need to be made in this county before we start just handing money out to every group asking for it, because the taxpayers really need to get the best bang for their buck, and they need to be safe. So please, when you guys are looking at this next budget cycle, remember the necessities that we have to have.
Jason, does this not play into the effort in Frankfurt to raise the gas tax?
I don't know about a gas tax, but I do know that we have a road fund that definitely needs to be taken care of.
And it needs funding, and that's where
We expressed our court's opinion of that. So.
It's all of it.
Right.
It all fits with each other.
Yeah.
We can't do it if we don't have the force to do it with.
Go ahead.
So noted, Magistrate Cullen.
Appreciate it, sir.
All right, so we will not kick it down the road. We will have another meeting and discussion once we have some more inputted information that our county administrator is acquiring, and to bring Steve Hunter and everybody back together to discuss this issue. Okay?
You can stay here.
What?
The Julie needs just like one of those little Murphy beds.
All right. The next one on our agenda is update feasibility of issuing citations for noise in county disturbing city residents. Attorney Herron, there is a city ordinance that addresses that, I believe. I haven't read that specifically, but what do you have advised on that?
I mean, yes, I mean, I'm looking at it right now. There's a city ordinance, it's section 8-41, and it goes through like 40 something, but it creates I mean, there is noise ordinance and dealing with different things, different decimals of noise and so forth. And I mean, it lays it out pretty, in detail. And if someone's like a habitual violator of this, it's made where they could be charged with the Class B misdemeanor, which is punishable up to 90 days in jail and a fine not exceeding $500. Basically, they do have, Section 8-44 of that ordinance talks about different types of noise, like radios and TVs. It talks about, between what hours, there should be quiet or unnecessary noise. Talking about loudspeakers, street sales. Paragraph 4 in that ordinance talks about animals, and I'll just read it. It's short. Owning, possessing, or harboring an animal or bird which frequently or for continued duration howls, barks, meows, squawks, or makes other sounds which creates excessive and unnecessary noise across a residential zone or commercial zone real property line or within a noise-sensitive zone. Notwithstanding the above-mentioned provision, the owner or the owning, possessing, or harboring of any barking dog, the sound for which creates excessive and unnecessary noise across any property line is prohibited. For the purpose of this regulation, barking dog is defined as a dog that barks, bays, cries, howls, or makes any other noises continuously and or incessantly for a period of 10 minutes or barks intermittently for 1/2 hour or more to the disturbance of any person at any time of day or night, regardless of whether the dog is physically situated in or upon private property. However, a dog shall not be deemed a barking dog for the purpose of this regulation if, at the time the dog is barking or making any other noise, a person is trespassing or threatening to trespass upon private property in or upon which the dog is situated, or for any other similar cause which tease to provoke the dog. So that's the one that deals with, dogs or animals. And then, this ordinance is, like I said, very detailed and talks about all kinds of different types of noises that are prohibited and so forth. So, I mean, it just depends on, we can do it in the county. It just depends on how in depth you want to go and
Chris, before we get into more, I thought we kind of talked last time that we were going to do something along the lines that specifically targets kennels. But B, it's my understanding the city's getting ready to do away with this ordinance because it's almost impossible to enforce. So why are we going to sit here and piggyback on an ordinance that doesn't work? It hasn't fixed any problems that they've had in the city. Let's go after the actual problems. If kennels are the problems, then let's go ahead and regulate the kennels. But again, we're going to open up Pandora's box here if we try regulating stuff in the county. Again, people live in the county for certain freedoms. And if there's big issues like kennels, then we go after those. You don't just go after everybody because, honestly, my whole neighborhood's going to be put on lockdown and notice, and we're not going to have any dogs because there's constantly dogs out there barking. And it's going to create a huge issue. The inability for animal control to do this, we're going to have to hire 10 new animal control officers, and we just don't have that. So let's go after the kennel, let's look into the kennel issue and move on from this whole noise ordinance thing. Because next thing you know, we're going to have farmers that are going to be interrupted, hunters that are going to be interrupted. There's going to be lots of problems that's not needed. Let's fix the problems that we have, not create new ones.
I think the point of discussion was he is responding to the minute that asked for a clarification on the city ordinance as it may impact county residents.
I understand that, but I think I brought up last time too, that the city is looking at removing this ordinance or cleaning it up and fixing it because it's not doable. 75 decibels. How many of us are going to go out there with a decibel gun? And let's address,
Judge.
we have 2 issues. Let's address the 2 issues, and then if another one comes up, we can go about looking at those. But spending a lot of time on something that the city has already admitted doesn't work.
All right, thank you.
Judge Tom Ellis.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
very familiar with the circumstance here because the owner of the new kennel in the East End lives in my district, and we've talked at length. And it needs to be said that in a conversation with them, when the owner was in the kennel and outside the kennel, and we talked, and she went inside and made the dogs bark, and on my phone, I could hear nothing. We need to have a circumstance here where someone who is complaining would stand at that fence line in that 20 to 30 minute period with his or her cell phone on. For example, last night I taped KET's legislative television program for an hour. It's time and date stamped on my phone, and if I were a complainant with respect to dogs barking, I could have that when that occurrence was taking place, and because they soundproofed the inside of that building when it was put up, there was no sign. I won't even say virtually no sound. There was no sound that I could hear once the owner went inside and had the dogs baying at the top of their lungs.
All right. Yes, sir. Magistrate K. Wood.
I think there's a little misconception here. An ordinance becomes a vehicle. And that someone would have the right to complain to whoever, for instance, the city, whoever handles that down there type of issue. They have the right to complain. And then the court system makes the decision based on the ordinance and the noise, and that's where the decision's really made. We don't hire people to go out there to enforce that. I don't see it that way. I see it that it's a vehicle that can be used should that situation occur and can be moved forward, proven by and then there's the judge, I guess, who makes the ruling decision. So it's not, I don't think we're looking at putting people out just with a decibel or a watch to time, how long a dog barks.
Somebody has
It's a vehicle that somebody has the right to use should that situation come up, and then it's decided by the public or by the people, the judge. But it's more of something that's on the books that can be used when needed.
Somebody has to cite that, right? Like, is it the sheriff's department that would go out there and take the thing in order to?
There's got to be somewhere where a citizen can go and say, I've got a complaint. The city has somebody who follows up and does that type of work down there.
Code enforcement.
Code enforcement person. And they go through the process that they use. It's written up in the ordinance. There is a process, I'm sure, that you use.
So,
but there is somebody, as you said, Jason, a code enforcement person. That somebody, a citizen can go and say, I got a problem that a rooster crows at 4 o'clock in the morning and wakes me up because I work all night, I sleep during the day. We had the same issue, and we sat here in a meeting amongst a few of us and heard somebody talk about the junk in their neighbor's yard. We don't have a vehicle to try to correct that and help that. There's people like Sam, who moved here, who doesn't want to see junk in his neighbor's yard, and have to put up with that. There's a compromised way of doing this that makes sense, that doesn't really, it just gets the job done. I've heard the barking. I've heard the recording of it, of the barking. I understand better now the noise that these people are hearing. I understand it. I wouldn't want it either. I wouldn't want it in my neighbor's yard. I wouldn't want to listen to it all day. Off my deck, at the back of my house. And what does it do to the value of your property that you've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in? You'll only know when it's sold. It's too late then. How do we go about it, Chris? That's what we look to you for.
Well,
two
in section 8,
two things. One, code enforcement. We don't have code enforcement, so what we were looking to do was to add somebody from animal control to serve as the code enforcement person. So there has to be somebody with authority to be able to go out there and cite the issue.
Yeah.
So that's one of the problems. With number two, I'm sure. Well, I was going to say homes are being sold in that neighborhood, but we don't need to go down that road. So
in the
it's a job that has to be created to do this.
It's not a job, it's a responsibility. It's an add-on to it's a responsibility.
Yeah.
At the last meeting, I gave you all a sample ordinance for barking dogs and noise. And I mentioned that you have to deputize probably animal control to enforce this. And I thought we said that we didn't want to go down that road at the last meeting. Do you want me to pull that back out?
No.
I'm hearing different opinions here. Which way you would like us to go? Do you want us to stop in that? I'm just not clear.
No.
I think we're still in the discussion phase of the options before us on how to address citizens' complaints that have a nuisance of some form in their.
I honestly think the business license is the way to go.
And I don't disagree with it.
Because the business license will solve not only a problem of kennels that are causing issues, but it'll solve any businesses that are out there. If you've got a guy that you live next to that decides he's gonna, work on car engines at 3:00 in the morning.
Exactly.
For his business that's out in the county. I mean, I think there's somebody that's looking at opening up a shop out on 33. That can be solved by this business license, but to start coming up with other things that's going to turn neighbor on neighbor because they don't like that the person has. I mean, you can get down. The person doesn't like they have dogs. They have chickens or whatever. But we're in the county, not in the city where the city has tighter regulations on these kind of things. So the business license will take it because, we're going to have to deputize. We're going to have somebody that has the authority to issue some sort of written complaint summons, or else it just goes to civil court, not criminal court. That's the two differences. So let's get the business license. And John, thank you for bringing up about the junk cars and everything, because that's the other thing that we need to actually knock out. I'm sure Julie is working night today on that one too. But the what is that, Julie? The property maintenance code really needs to be a priority.
What we're having is something that happens in the county, but affects the people that live in the city.
Yeah.
And that's the difficult part. And I understand it, but there's got to be what?
Well, it's not just the city people, because there's a person in the county.
There is a they're involved next door that's
a county person.
Affected by it. In fact, maybe more affected than anybody. I'm not sure, but there's got to be a way to fix this, and I hope that we will continue to discuss that.
I think we
find the solution.
We have to continue discussing.
We have.
It's not a quick, easy fix. Be respectful of all the dialogue and different situations that could exist.
Well, and I think we have to recognize that it's more than just a kennel or dogs.
It is.
That there are some other issues that need to be incorporated into the big picture.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
More work to do.
Chris, do you have any other comments before we move on?
Yes, I would just say that section 849-49 of the Danville Ordinance, it talks about enforcement responsibility, because the question's been who's going to enforce this, and it basically reads the noise control officer. So they have a noise control officer. So the noise control officer in the city shall have the primary enforcement responsibilities for this article. The noise control officer shall coordinate with the city police department and the county attorney's office concerning the issuance of complaints and the prosecution of persons and entities isolating this article. The noise control officer shall also coordinate with federal and state authorities and, as necessary, enforce federal statutes and regulations to the extent authorized by the Federal Quiet Communities Act and other applicable law. So I haven't, I mean, in my 2+ years, as county attorney, no one's brought a noise ordinance city violation to me to take to court. So.
All right, very good. Thank you. Mr. Treasurer, you got something you need to say?
On a different note, I just wanted to make the court aware, since we did agree to reimburse for mileage, that the IRS rate is
56 cents a mile. All right, because that's in the minutes. All right, let's move along, and we're more discussion come forth on this issue. Not today.
No.
Going forward. Mike Rogers is going to step in and address this with a request.
Like,
You may not need it. Try to speak. Can you all hear Mike?
Can you hear me? Good morning, Judge. Good morning, everybody. For today, we have a part-time employee to consider. His name is Jerry Dominion. He's a paramedic. The effective date would be effective today at $15 an hour.
I'll make that motion.
That's it.
Motion made by Magistrate Cullen, seconded by Magistrate Kaywood to approve the part-time hire of paramedic Jerry Dominion at $15 an hour. He is in the room. If there's any questions or comments, to introduce himself to the court. The motion has been made. Now it's a chance for any questions, comments, or discussions before we vote.
Does this bring you up to full staff?
Well, part-time, we always hire for part-time just because, we have people that work more and then they fall off. And but for paramedics, we don't really have a certain number of.
No, it's a qualification. We get a good candidate. We don't pass up an opportunity. Okay.
I just want to say welcome. Thank you very much, and be safe, please.
All right, now we'll vote. Magistrate Gay.
Aye.
Magistrate Ellis.
Aye.
Magistrate Salmons.
Aye.
All right, Magistrate Kaywood.
Yes.
Magistrate Cullen.
Yes.
It passes unanimously. Congratulations. Congratulations, Jerry. Appreciate you coming in. Thank you for being here. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Next, Duane Campbell. He's on. Mike's off.
That
Okay,
better?
there you go. Yeah, it's better.
Oh, okay. I have one item of business. Hang on, sorry. Actually, I have probably two items, but one item to discuss. We sent out advertisements for flower quotes. We delivered advertisements to 4 folks around us. Of course, we gave one to the high school because they provided the flowers to us last year. We went to McAfee, we went to Pax, and we went to Dana Brook in Mercer County. I only received one quote back from those 4 advertisements, and that was from the high school, from the FFA. And the total quote from them is $2,613, which is just a few dollars less than last year's quote. That does include, planting, or at least helping to plant, and then also helping to look after them. I think last year we gave them the full amount as a donation, and that whatever the pleasure of the court is today. But we have received the one quote from them for $2,613. That's for 550 plants, and very much the same the plants that we used last year that seemed to work out real well and looked really nice. And so we may do a little bit. We may try to look at arranging them a little differently so they don't overspread the plaques quite as much. But anyway, regardless, that's the quote.
I move that we accept the bid.
Motion been made to accept the bid by Magistrate Ellis, seconded by Magistrate Collier. Questions, comments, or discussions on the motion?
Comment real quick.
Anything we can do to support.
Okay, let's go one at a time. Magistrate Gay.
Yes, I would just like to comment that I'm always one to try to admit when I'm wrong, and I was fully wrong on this decision last year. I thought they did a wonderful job, and I'm glad to support this bid and effort this year.
Sir, was it Magistrate Salmons or Magistrate Ellis want to say something?
Ellis, anything
Okay.
we can do to support our young people and our 4-H program and our farm community, and they've done a spectacular job. We need to support them every time we get an opportunity.
All right, thank you, sir. And anybody here?
I would just like to add that I appreciate that James did such a great job of taking care of them through the summer. And I think that added to the great look that they had through the whole summer.
I agree.
So let's give a little credit to where credit is due, and that's the work of James.
And the garden club helped, and John helped, and it was a community effort, but James and did a tremendous job, and the school did a tremendous job, and I think they will continue in the same vein that they did last year. So now we will vote, and all those.
Can I have a second?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, I agree with what was said. I did want to say that we appreciate the garden club stepping up to help make this happen. And really, this is a big, bold thing for the school to do, considering they've not really been able to be there. So it just kind of shows their commitment to the county as well. So I appreciate that, and I don't know if it's possible or not, but it would be nice if the garden club and John helps again this year. Maybe the county looks in some way of a donation or of something to the garden club for their time to help with whatever we can for that fine organization.
Once again, considering transparency, when you live with the president of the garden club, you do what they say.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, we'll vote. Magistrate Gay.
Aye.
Magistrate Ellis.
Aye.
Magistrate Salmons.
Yes.
Magistrate Gatewood. Magistrate Cullen.
Very much, yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Passed unanimously. Congratulations, Boyle County High School, and thank you for that, Duane. Duane, you said you had something else that's not on the agenda. What was that?
Well, I was just going to mention the pending weather that we have possibly coming in beginning tomorrow.
Okay.
We are watching closely, and we're planning accordingly as much as we possibly can. We had tried in an effort we tried to find some quotes on treated salt, which would work better this coming weekend because of the cold temperatures. I was hoping to have 3 quotes to present to you to purchase 100 tons of treated salt to have for this weekend, but I've been unable to come up with those 2 extra quotes yet. So I'm still working on that, and I don't know. I don't know if there's any kind of tentative approval. It's mainly going to be over $3,000. So according to our administrative code, the court has to approve the purchase. It's not a bid or anything like that. It was just a one-time purchase. The city of Danville we're able to obtain treated salt this year at a very good price. They had even offered to sell us 100 tons if they have that much additional on hand. So I was trying to get 2 other quotes to compare to that. But I assure you, they are paying less for the treated salt than we are for just standard salt. And of course, once the temperature drop below 25, our salt becomes very ineffective in clearing the road. So this weekend, maybe we may have one of those issues where we have snow on the road and we can't get it off. But that was what I was going to try to have prepared to bring to you, but these companies are not very cooperative to it.
Judge, can we do this prospectively?
I would, we're on a short window here, a time window, because this should start, 1:00 in the morning on Wednesday morning? Is that right?
Yeah. The biggest issue for us is, of course, it may reach a point where we can't haul it, even, from the city to our garage, but that may be difficult. But the more crucial time for the salt usage for us will be at the end of the week. If we get the second snowstorm they're talking about, which goes into the weekend, and we're talking about single digit, even below zero temperatures.
And what's the effective range of treated salt if you were able to get it? What's the effective range of temperature for treated salt?
Down to between 5 and 10 degrees.
Okay. I'll entertain the court's pleasure on this. We can give latitude, or we can bring back the special call session to consider the administrative code bid completions.
Judge, I make a motion, but Judge.
Yes.
Please.
I think the court needs to give you and Duane permission to purchase the salt without us having a special call meeting to approve it. I make that motion.
We can do that, but we still need to get. Okay, I'm good with that, but we need to get the other two so we are compliant with the administrative code, and Duane and I will be committed to doing that today.
Yes.
Okay.
I second that.
So that being said, then I would like to entertain a motion to purchase treated salt at the best possible price, receiving 3 bids.
Yeah, never mind.
One-time purchase. Not to exceed what, Duane?
Probably $7,000. I think $7,000. The current cost is just below $70 a ton that the city has for 100 tons. Well, but say 7,500 just to be safe. But
not to exceed 7,500. You got that question look on your face, man.
No,
okay.
I make it motion.
Motion has been made to approve the emergency purchase after 3 bids, the best price up to $7,500 of treated salt today if we can get it. Does everybody understand the motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Magistrate Collier. We're missing Ronnie.
Let's be sure it's discussing.
Okay. Now is there discussion, comments, or questions about the motion?
Judge Tom Ellis.
Yes, sir.
I would amend the motion because in a 5-day time frame to get this, I'm concerned that we won't get 3 bids, therefore would be precluded from purchasing the salt. This is an emergency. I've been trailing this weather report here for days, and it's going to hit like it did 12 years ago when we were totally shut down and lost power all over the county. And anything we can do to prevent that kind of circumstance, not to mention the safety of our citizens and fire protection that needs to get out, and our sheriff's department, I really would amend the motion. Maybe, perhaps we can get 2 bids, but I'm concerned in 5 days we can't get 2 bids.
I am concerned, Tom, about the suspension of the administrative code. That bothers me a little bit. because that's our law of what we are governed by.
I understand.
Okay, I believe, Duane, don't you? And I'm looking at you, that we can aggressively attack the 3 bid requirement today for this weekend, the snow removal.
Yeah, we'll hunt somebody down. We received one other one, and so we'll part of this permit.
We'll aggressively pursue it, Tom. I would rather go that route and feel like that we can accomplish compliance with the administrative code.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. Anybody else?
No, moving on.
All right. Magistrate Gay, your vote, please.
Aye.
Magistrate Dallas, your vote.
Aye.
Magistrate Sammons.
Aye.
Magistrate Kaywood. Magistrate Cullen.
Yes.
That passed unanimously. Duane, thank you for that. Let's get on the phone.
Thank you. All right.
Appreciate it. Shannon, I see you there. You're on.
Yes. Good morning. I know last time we talked about the end of the COVID paid sick leave at the end of December. And we were going to do some research and come back. Several of the counties and cities around Kentucky are extending that COVID sick pay at the cost of the county or city. And we would also like to extend that. And we have given you a copy of the policy.
I'll make that motion.
Yeah, I'll second that. And I would like to say I appreciate the work on this. I think this is the right thing to do. And this is a good plan you all put together.
This motion has been made to approve the COVID-19 sick leave policy enhancement to our personnel guidelines immediately. And let me add, motion was made by Magistrate Cullen to approve the presented policy and seconded by Magistrate Gay. I believe in here it does say that the effective date of 1 January, and it's minusculely impact financially to go back and make that adjustment. Just a statement to be made. Any other questions, comments, or discussions?
Yes, Judge. A couple of comments and questions. I certainly want us to approve something here. Shannon, am I correct that when you read number 1 and then you read number 3, if, for example, I were one of your employees in the county and I exhausted the COVID 2 weeks, I would have no more emergency paid sick leave for the remainder of that year. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. And I support that. All right. On 1A, received a positive COVID-19 test or experiencing COVID-19 symptoms and seeking medical diagnosis. I would add the word seeking proven medical diagnosis, certified by a physician. And then on B, advised in writing rather than just advised by a healthcare provider. Advised in writing by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine, and I would add after that a specific period of time. So that it would now read advised in writing by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine for a specific period of time due to COVID-19 concerns. Right now, it doesn't require any physician certification.
What was your correction to 1A, Tom, again?
After it would read with the word proven toward the end. Received a positive COVID-19 test or experiencing COVID-19 symptoms, proven and seek.
So basically, we just need a doctor's note.
Well, the basic intent is like Magistrate Cullen says, before the leave is authorized, you have to have a doctor's note or a health department note of the exam or quarantine.
But it doesn't say that.
He's not wrong. I
Seeking
think under
proven
A,
medical
you could
diagnosis.
just say a doctor's note is required.
Well, it does say it in 2.
Yeah, I was going to say it does say it in 2.
It says a copy of the test results, doctor's note, or quarantine order must be given to the payroll officer to verify leave.
Okay, I can go. Yeah, my bad. That'll
I
work.
take that from up front.
Yeah, so I think this is well done, and it addresses what we need to get done. I call the question.
All right, is there any other comments?
Can we talk about the noise ordinance again?
No. All right, Magistrate Gay, your vote.
Aye.
Magistrate Ellis,
Aye.
Magistrate Salmons,
Oh my gosh.
Aye.
Magistrate Caleb. Yes. Magistrate Cullen.
Yes.
Thank you. Passing unanimously. Thank you, Shannon. What else we got? We got the approval of request.
Contract agreement.
All right. We have a request to approve a compensatory time agreement with Ms. Jessica Kearney. That's been moved by Magistrate Kaywood that we do that. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Magistrate Cullen. Any discussion? All those in favor, Magistrate Gay,
Aye.
Magistrate Ellis,
Aye.
Magistrate Salmons,
Yes.
Magistrate Kaywood, yes, Magistrate Cullen.
Yes.
Passed unanimously. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. All right, Shannon, I think that's it, isn't it?
That's it.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. Moving on, we have Miss Julie Wagner.
All right, I have a couple things. So start with what's on the agenda, and then I have 2 other things. Just to tell everybody kind of how the Ephraim McDowell, in case you haven't seen the news, the judge and I wrote a letter to Secretary Gray requesting that they reconsider Ephraim McDowell. And while I was off, they had a meeting, and I think our letter co-signed by the judge and mayor went a long way in getting Ephraim McDowell secured as a site. And I just saw yesterday that they're getting an additional 200 vaccines above and beyond the 300 that we were allotted first round. I think the way I understand it is the response has just been tremendous at the hospital for people signing up for the vaccine. So that's a good thing. But the mayor and judge working together was a unified front. And again, our community benefited from that. It's amazing when we work together, the great things that we can accomplish. A couple other things. One is we have been working on collections, and we're probably at some point going to need to have a conversation about writing off outstanding balances, perhaps at the 5-year and older. There are some numbers there that I'm just not sure of the process. It looks like anything under $25 and 5 years old has been our threshold. So just be thinking about how we handle that so that when I bring it to you, probably in the next 30 days to 6 weeks, we'll have a conversation about write-offs and what the policy needs to be for that. The last thing I have is I received a grant application from the Department for Local Government. They're offering up to $200,000 for utility relief. Spoke with Dan Hitchcock at Intercounty Energy, and he encouraged us to apply for these funds. It looks like if you're funded, there's no match, but you partner with a community agency similar to the Community Action Agency. And the relief is up to $250 a month for 6 months. I don't know yet if it's going to be worth our time. You know, I don't know what the need is here, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I will call Community Action today and see if I can get an idea from them. I've also reached out to the city of Danville to see if they're applying, so that we would know kind of how to structure this, if they're going to do city or county. I haven't heard back yet, but there is funds out there through COVID relief for utility abatement. And I don't know enough to tell you whether we should apply or not. I would say we probably will, but it is a federal grant run through Department of Government.
Question.
Yes.
Who would make that decision as to, if it worked out, who would make the decision as to who gets it?
Yeah, it looks from the grant verbiage that it would be the Community Action Agency. They're very clear that if a family is paid directly to their family. So that is a great system. We have to partner with the
grant. We're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Like it. I would say that we probably will be able to show a need here for.
I suspect so.
Yeah. So just an FYI that's something I'll probably be bringing to at the next meeting if you apply.
Sooner the better, if I could, and I really appreciate your effort on this.
Yeah. And that's really all I have.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Julie, and it's great to have you back.
Thank you.
And we hope and pray for the balance of your family that are experiencing some health concerns. All right, Keegan Hinkle, our county treasurer, is on.
Okay, I just need to request the approval of incentive payments for the judge for completing his 40 hours of training, as well as Magistrate Haywood, Magistrate Cullen, Magistrate Ellis, and Magistrate Sammons.
Let's see if there's any bandit highway robbery holding up a motion to approve.
So what do you have next, Keegan? What's after this? No, I'll make that motion for all these overachievers once again.
Motion's been made to approve the incentive payments for the judge, Magistrate Haywood, Cullen, Ellis, and Sammons. Is there a second?
Well, Ronnie's not here, so.
So is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Magistrate Cullen. Discussion, comments, or questions?
I have one question.
Here we got one question.
I would like for Magistrate Sammons to give a report on what he learned in his training the last year at the next meeting.
Oh, he keeps us all day.
He won't do that. Hear that, Magistrate Sammons? You
I
give
heard what he said.
Yeah.
And if I,
He requested a report for your next court session on your training.
Everybody's talking at the same time, so you can't really hear anything, but I'd like to tell Magistrate Haywood that what I learned is about 10% more than he got, so we'll just let's go with that.
Judge, being the kind of person that I am, I'll let him slide on that.
All right. All vote, Magistrate Gay.
Aye.
Magistrate Ellis.
Aye.
Magistrate Sammons.
Aye.
Magistrate Haywood. Magistrate Cullen. Aye. Aye. That's unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Keegan, continue on.
Okay, now I need to request the approval of our elected official salaries. So the judge, the clerk, the sheriff, and the baker are all set. The county attorney, the county coroner, and all the magistrates are considered for a 1.4% increase in their annual salary. I need to get that approved.
I'll make that motion.
All right, the motion made to approve the requested salary adjustments as stipulated by the treasurer, made by Magistrate Kaywood and seconded by Magistrate Gay. Discussions, comments, or anything else to go with that? So a vote, Magistrate Gay.
Aye.
Magistrate Ellis.
Aye.
All right, Magistrate Sammons.
Yes.
Magistrate Kaywood.
Yes.
Magistrate Collier.
Yeah, and let's just say this, this is a COLA increase, this is a cost of living increase, correct?
It is.
Yeah.
This
is not us giving ourselves a raise.
No, it is not giving ourselves a raise.
It's a cost of living, that, okay, then yes.
It's stipulated in statute. All right. So we have a unanimous yes and approval on that request for the elected officials' salaries. Next, the quarterly report.
I gave you all this information just to circulate it around. I turned this into DLG. They haven't had any issues with it, so I guess that would be considered a second successful quarterly report. If you have any questions, come by anytime to talk about it.
You have that in your packet. If there's any comments or questions, we just need to acknowledge the submittal of the second quarterly report to DLG. And like he said, we've not received any comment back yet. All right. Moving right along to new business. We'll start with Magistrate Gay.
I really don't have any, just I do want to ask that we adjourn in the memory of Warren Lanham at the end of the meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you. Very, very good. Magistrate Ellis.
Yes, sir. As the court's designated member of EDP's board, I feel an obligation not only to the court, but to all of our constituents throughout the entire county to report on my concerns with respect to a marketing plan that I have tried in 2 successive meetings to persuade members of the marketing and recruitment committee should be delayed for a period of at least 6 months. The concept is that an outside firm would be hired. A contract has not yet been signed. There was a rumor going around a couple of weeks ago that the contract had been signed so that it could be done. But the contract for $30,000 of our taxpayer dollars would project going out to 650 available jobs, going out to communities within 100-mile radius, not 100 miles radius is a huge, going way up in Ohio and way down in Tennessee, West Virginia, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana. And the claim of this plan would be that there would be 2.3 million overall impressions. And in the field that I spent my career in, there would be 775,000 impressions to physicians and nurses and other professionals in the healthcare field. Speaking from just my own background in that field, with the idea that we have very scarce apartments and housing available right now, a family driving down from Cincinnati with the promise of a very good job, bringing their 2 kids along with them, staying at the Holiday Inn or another local motel, while the gentleman or the lady interviewing for the position would be there and attempting to get an employed position. The family would be out seeking, wow, what a wonderful county. Wonder where we can live. My grave concern is those 775,000 impressions in the field of healthcare could very well backfire with the extraordinarily limited number of apartments and homes that are available right now. And when they go back home, realizing that they couldn't find housing and therefore they could not accept that very good job that was offered, it would not reflect well on our entire county. It was said in our last meeting of the marketing and recruitment meeting that we'd be happy with 50 to 75 jobs on that $30,000 expenditure. With all due respect, that could be as much as $600 per job in a circumstance where that promise could not be delivered to a great, significant number of people. I just hope that between now and, by the way, tomorrow, the executive committee of EDP meet, and they're going to either consider this, or as the marketing committee believes, it's just a pass-through right now. But I hope that they will consider some of these points that are on record in the two meetings that I attended, and that they will realize that, yes, it probably is a good idea, but it's probably a good idea post-COVID, another mitigating factor. And when we can see the light at the end of the tunnel on some available new housing of both apartments and homes.
How do you factor in the probability of some outreach being a benefit to persons in surrounding environs that are willing to commute to do business, the new job opportunities here in the county?
I think that's wonderful, but as we see many, many times when EDP reports, we already have virtually saturated that outreach to other counties, because something above 60% of the employment in our county right now is folks who live outside the county. I think it's very tenuous to believe that we would increase, as one gentleman said in the meeting, beyond 50 or 75 hits for new jobs after spending $30,000 in an environment of COVID and limited ability to get out and travel and participate. The one thing that I recommended, and you'll recall I recommended this 2 years ago, is that center graduates all around the country and literally around the world could be contacted with emails. That was pushed back on by a member of the committee not involved directly with Center College. He was almost quoting HIPAA in the healthcare field on confidentiality, but I countered that in the meeting by saying, but it could be conducted by Center itself, because Center often communicates by email with their graduates around the world. I think that should be the consideration for now, because they have thousands of graduates who might be able to touch someone in New York State, in California, in Florida, somewhere else, who someone is looking for a job, and that would be virtually no cost. It would be the punching of a button if the center administration would do it on the very confidentiality level, rather than turning those records and those emails over to EDP. That did not get enough discussion in our last meeting.
Okay. So, Tom, we'll talk later on about the meeting, the executive meeting tomorrow, and what does the court have any opinion on some of the discussion made by Magistrate Ellis?
I'm confused. I would say that we should be encouraging to fill these jobs. The housing market is not saturated. I'm looking right now online, and just houses above $250,000 in Boyle County, I mean, there's just 73 right there that I'm looking at that I just pulled up quickly. So there is housing around here. We need more housing. We need more affordable housing, actually. But the careers that they're targeting, doctors, nurses, whatever, they can afford the houses that are here. It's the people that are working in the factories that can't afford a lot of the housing that we have around here. Those are the townhouses, apartments that are needed. But in no way should we discourage, filling jobs in our community. And if we could get people that will move in, and they may have to at the time, they may find a house in Lancaster, they may have to find a house somewhere else, but we need to fill those jobs. And so I'm confused on why we would discourage that.
Magistrate Cullen, I'll respond to that. This is not just targeting that audience. This is targeting a whole wide range from minimum wage all the way up through a position for college professors' salaries, for example. So the 775,000 quote unquote impressions are only a component of 2.3 million impressions going all throughout everything from janitors who might apply to our county.
I'm sorry, I'm so confused.
The timing.
We can talk later.
All right,
Judge, man,
yeah, just like, John, go ahead.
I'm a little bit like Jason. I'm confused too. Because I get confused when I hear respectfully, and Tom, very respectfully, I'm gonna say this, but I'm gonna disagree. But please understand why. When we say on a project that has been 6 months in going, and EDP has the money, they won't be coming to our door, as I understand, asking for additional funding. They have money. They've not been able to visit places because of COVID over the last year. But when we have some way to tell our story, which we had a consultant a couple of years say this is what we needed, and we don't do it today when people are looking at moving, going into the spring is the highest real estate. Real estate here is very good right now from what I hear. Plus, there's a thing called the free market, which will go its way. I don't think we need to get involved in the free marketplace. The other point I'd like to make, if there's nobody asking for housing coming here because they want to live here, you're not going to have investors building. You won't have you won't have developers develop if there's not a demand. So we have to create the demand. And 6 months is 6 months, but I think we have to work every day at it and not wait 6 months. So I don't understand why we're saying no to telling our story and inviting people to come here for jobs to fill the roles of industry or those who need workers, which will pay a payroll tax, which will float to us and into our general fund for us to widen roads and do those things here for our citizens, such as EMS. We talk about what that costs us. It costs us a lot, but we provide, because of leadership, we provide one of the best EMS services in the state, if not the very best. And the expenses and what we try to do for our employees. Why we want to start that in 6 months and why we don't start it today? It should have started yesterday in very difficult times. Our projected population increase is very low when you look into the projections for future years by different people who do projections. Ball County is very low. I would say Kentucky's not real high probably. When we rank 48th and 47th in so many areas, let's be aggressive every day, Tom, and try to get the job done. So I respectfully disagree with you, and let's tell our story and get people here.
And I respectfully disagree, John, with you because I've been involved in physician and nurse recruitment in my career. And with the limitations that we have just in that one cell of the entire program that we have, I'm just not as optimistic as you apparently are that this is going to be a successful expenditure of a great deal of, yes, EDP money, yes, court money, and yes, taxpayer money.
Tom, you and I and EDP don't make the decision on the move. It is the client, it is the person who hears the news, who feels like Ball County wants them to come. I talked to a lady yesterday, moved here from California, and I said to her, I don't blame you for leaving California. I wouldn't blame you if you moved from New York either. But they moved here for a reason, and they're tickled to death to be here. They felt welcome to be here, and she said that. very young lady, I'd say in her 30s. She and her husband are professional in their work. You just never know. I talk to people from time to time who moved here from all different places, and I scratch my head. I wonder why. Whether they felt like they wanted to come here because they heard our story. Let's tell our story.
Well, I think anytime we have an opportunity to tell our story and promote Boyle County as a place, and I understand some of the concerns that Magistrate Ellis had, but nonetheless, notwithstanding, if $30,000 that is partially taxpayer money, if it promotes Boyle County in a positive vein as a land of opportunity, that is good for everybody involved. And if you have the demand surfacing from that effort, I would think that the local construction industry would be in tune and aware of the possibilities through our realtors of the need to expand opportunity in a fairly quick order, I would hope. So
I would pray that you gentlemen are correct.
It needs to be pointed out that construction costs are going up very much at this period of time, so I'm told. So developers need a real reason to develop houses, apartments, living quarters for people. If you don't have living quarters for people, they won't come, I will admit. But you can't wait 6 months for that. You got to start that today.
It's also a very confusing message that the court is sending, that we've been very tough on EDP about what are they doing to fill jobs, what are they doing to bring people here, and then to when they come up with a plan that could be a viable plan, to sit here and say no, we don't want you to do that. So I think it's important that if they've got a plan that, I don't see a problem. We've got the jobs. The jobs aren't going to go away. Of course, we pray that they don't go away. But so if they've got a plan to try to fill those jobs that are already here, let's hope that it works out.
Well, there was a meeting a couple of years ago of which the marketing plan for EDP was less than 5 figures. I think it was around $4,000 or $5,000. It's hard to remember a couple of years ago what the figure was, but at least they're doing something. It was encouraged then that the marketing plan, and by the people in the room, it was said that marketing plan is too low. $30,000 is not a whole lot, to tell you the truth. That's not a big figure, folks. So at least we're trying to do something, and that's better than doing nothing.
All right, what else you got, Tom?
All right, sir. Yesterday, as a member of the Kentucky Magistrates and Commissioners Association Legislative Committee, they covered several things of grave concern and great interest to us. Of very grave concern, and I've written, and I know that our jailer is on and paying attention here. Number one, and I think we've heard this before, but now it's in legislative form, there is Senate Bill 126 to move the felony threshold from 500 to 1,000. I don't think that would have a great impact on us, but it is of concern with what we're paid by the state and what we'll face in the future with that change to a higher threshold to classify as being a felony offense. The one that was expressed such grave concern that one of my magistrate colleagues from another county said, this would be disastrous. It's a bill that has not yet been filed. It is a 50-page bill on all aspects of the jail community, us being one of the 78 or 79 across the state. So mine was not just the only sentiment, just saying, golly, we're halfway through this session of the General Assembly. It's not been printed yet. It's 50 pages long, and we're just going to have to take great attention to what that one might be. A third, actually, involving the jails would limit the use of our phone dollars that we accrue that we use for other purposes. And I know from conversations with Jailer Wolford that has to go right back to the benefit of the inmates. And yet it would limit our use of those dollars. Other legislation, and I think you've seen this because I sent out an email earlier, and I now have a letter to the editor in the paper today. Senate Bill 120, yesterday, Commissioner Quarles was on with us, and he disabused me of my limit of $1 billion. He mentioned that this legislation would affect our $2 billion, 200-year-old horse industry in Kentucky, and the trickle down would go to some 40,000 horse-related jobs in Kentucky. That was another piece of data that the commissioner put out, so we'll be watching that. One of great interest to all of us, we've talked about it in court several times, House Bill 348 is on the last mile high-speed broadband. Amazingly, DLG has been responsible over the past year or so for writing regulations to help move that forward. And apparently, again, a comment from Commissioner Quarles was that they went past the expiration date for entertaining proposals on the DLG did on the concept of House Bill 348. They did get something in late, but it may not be approved. To show what we could miss out on here, using their CARES fund, which was a revelation to me, the states of Mississippi and Tennessee qualified for additional dollars. Tennessee alone got over $60 million of CARES funds dedicated to the last mile in that state. So that bill is going to come up it is up right away in legislative form, and that could help us tremendously because Tennessee and Mississippi went after grants with the regulations that could come if this does pass. I had others, but I think those are the important ones.
All right. Thank you. What else do you have?
I'll hold back on the other piece. There are about a half a dozen other pieces of legislation, but those are the ones that I think we most need to pay attention to, Judge. Thank you.
All right. Well, Miss Julie and I and others will be checking in on those as we go, and I'll communicate with Keiko those issues. Jailer Wolford, I see that you're on, and you've been very quite respectful. This might be a time that you want to say something briefly to the court to address those issues with the jail.
There's the one with the where we take away our funding for the phone systems. Basically, that money that would cost me the commissions. We can't really call them commissions anymore, but the money we receive off that covers 4 employees out of that money for the phones. So that would be a big impact on my budget.
Gotcha. Has your association made any assessment on the probability of passage with regarding to your efforts from the association?
We had 2 board meetings the week before last. They are aware of the Senate bills, and we're working, of course, with Keiko as well for a response from the Jailers Association.
Okay. But I think it would be important that we know what that is, so that as far as I'm concerned, the Judge Exec Association and the Magisterial Association could likewise echo those opportunities where it becomes important.
I agree.
Okay. Anything else?
I'll just say to Brian Wolford that as soon as I can get a copy of that 50-page piece of proposed legislation, unless you already get it first from your association, I'll make sure to get it in your hands.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys. Manager Simmons.
I have nothing. Tom took all my time, so I'll just keep mine for the next meeting.
All right, thank you, sir. Manager Kaywood.
Just a few things. I hope we will continue to encourage our employees to, on the question of whether or not to take the vaccine. I would encourage them to take it, but that is their individual decision. But I think we all have to work together, and I think part of this is getting the vaccine to protect each other. I hope that we can continue to work on an evacuation plan for the courthouse employees. I hope we will continue to review our ethics code, which I think is going on, and would encourage it. Thank you for those who are doing it. Sam hung in there most of the time with us. He may be gone now, but I want to say, Sam, thank you. I'm impressed that you hung in there with us, and I appreciate you listening to us.
He's still on.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for getting to know us better. I think you probably learned about us by being tuned in. So thank you, sir. It's so noted.
Well, thank you, sir. Thanks, John. Yeah.
That's why I've been so quiet, Kaywood. I didn't want him to know a whole lot about me.
That would probably be the best for him.
Thank you.
I wanted to, Jamey, do we have an idea on census results? Do we have an idea on the census results or when they'll be certified? Or?
No, I think they get certified. I'll check on that for sure, but I want to say it's not until like April.
Okay. All right. And I'm going to leave 2 words here. Be kind. We kind of talked a little earlier in a committee meeting. Everyone is stressed out with COVID. Everyone's having, different reactions to the world we live in right now. But just remember to be kind because we're all going through this together. So let's try to be good people to each other. And then let's also look after those that are going through whatever illness or sickness they have. I think we've seen lots of stories where this can turn bad real quick. So look in on your neighbors and make sure they're okay. I think I've been sitting next to John too long here. I'm starting to feel a little bit of John inspiration. So yeah, that's all I have.
Well, thank you.
There could be worse.
Thank you for that. I tell you what, I personally appreciate the court's vision and going to help our county employees with this COVID-19 policy, emergency leave addition that we have made today. And it will expire on 31 March, but we'll revisit it if things don't improve greatly between now and then. Okay, I think that shows our appreciation for our county employees and the health that they maintain and bring to work each and every day. Also, thank you for approving the mileage at 50 cents per mile for 2021 for our committee members to attend out-of-county required functions for boards and committees. I want to remind everybody that last time we talked about the sheriff's body cam dash cams, and we have only 2 magistrates in the room, 1 sick and the other 3 on screen. But if today or any time at your leisure, but today for those that are here, the sheriff is standing by ready to demonstrate the dash cam installations and some of the equipment associated with them, and give you an update on the body cam, dash cam processes and procedures as that we're moving forward. And then we will be looking at probably in the next court session at those arrangements to bring on full-time video system maintenance folks that we have discussed in the past that have a great deal of experience with on guard. So looking forward to that. I want to say thank you to the city and Mayor Parrish and the commission for their work to help bring Ephraim McDowell into focus as a regional vaccine center. That is huge for not only our county residents, but for those who want to take it in the surrounding counties. Apparently up to the 180 to 200,000 inquiry range. So this will be great. There are some informational links that I can provide the court if they want those, that I think the newspaper probably already has from the health department with Kroger and the facility at the horse park, Ephraim McDowell. Sign up and register for all those if you want to get vaccinated. And they'll call you and they'll schedule you. So, and soon to be, I believe, I don't want to be out in front of any official announcement because it's not there yet. Be clear on that. But I believe that our local Good Neighbor Pharmacy is in the mix for consideration to do something there also. So we are trying to understand the supply, according to national news, is supposed to outstrip the demand in a not real distant future, and that's good news for those who want to get the vaccine. So I will commit to you that Director Campbell and I will aggressively pursue the SWAT, the treated SWAT questions that we need to be compliant with our administrative code. We'll get that worked out. In closing, before I close in remembrance of Warren, I would like to have a discussion with the court on this coming week's potential severe winter storm that has up to a 90+% probability of a 1/4 inch of ice, maybe Wednesday or Thursday. My inclination at this point, not having gone through this in the past, is to consider maybe closing the courthouse out of due diligence of caution to not only our employees, but those who would have a feeling of needing to be here for business otherwise. I would rather people stay home. If we have a 1/4 inch of ice on our streets and roads in the county, I am really concerned about the safety of all citizens. I have talked with the judges and the administrators of the courts, officers of the courts, and they're willing to follow my lead on that. So I would like some input from the court as information you can provide me with your thoughts.
Sorry, are you asking?
No, not now.
I'm sorry. You're jumping in ahead of me, Jamey. I was on the line first. Judge, I think it's being the executive officer of the court, the fiscal court, I think you have power to do that. And I think it'd be recommended to close the courthouse Thursday and Friday of this week in preparation of this storm that's coming, because it's, like you say, 90% chance that we are going to get about at least a 1/4 inch of ice. And we don't want our employees or anyone planning on coming to the courthouse to be in danger. So that's the recommendation I'd make, is to close the courthouse Thursday and Friday in preparation of this.
Okay, next, Magistrate Gay.
Oh, that wasn't me. I think that was Magistrate Cullen or somebody else that was speaking. I didn't have anything to add to that.
I apologize, Magistrate Gay. I'm picking on you.
Apology accepted, sir. No, I mean, I would say, when would you make the call? Would you make it that morning?
I would make it in consultation with Public Works and our emergency management director. It would probably be tomorrow, sometime tomorrow, because it's supposed to hit considerably tonight. But the ice, I want to wait. I will give everybody adequate notice not to come.
But you'll close it, say, Thursday, but not close it Thursday, Friday, unless needed to close it Friday, correct?
Correct.
That's fine. I just don't want to blankly close.
And it's not for so much any kind of accumulation of snow that I'm not sure about. It's predominantly ice.
I understand. Today and pass this to the south.
Gotcha. So, I would do it on an incremental day-to-day kind of thing and make that announcement through the radio.
I'm fine with it.
So,
Judge, it's very hard to call wet, you know.
Very hard.
Very hard. I trust your judgment. And for me, I would give you right to use your judgment based on the conditions. And for us to make that call is very difficult with that.
It is, I'm just looking for input and what the general.
I'm fine with your judgment.
Okay. Anybody else? All right.
Judge,
Listen.
you might want to have the directors of all the divisions form a phone tree, because not everybody might hear the closure on the radio.
Put it on the website.
We'll put it on our website also.
Excellent.
But we'll handle that, Tom, yeah. Okay.
Judge, you use your own judgment.
All right, thank you, Magistrate Sammons. It's been a great court session. I appreciate the recommendation Magistrate gave, and we will adjourn in memory and honor of the services and the life of Warren Lanham, and our sympathies go to his family, and we appreciate all of his service that he has done for Boyle County and the citizens of Boyle County throughout his career in law enforcement and elsewhere. So we will entertain a motion to adjourn, and we will adjourn in honor of Warren Lanham.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made and seconded. Gentlemen, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And adjournment in honor of Warren Lanham. Thank you. Have a good day.